Elon went on Ted Cruz's podcast last week and said this. Listen to this.
How real is the prospect of killer robots annihilating humanity?
20% likely. Maybe
Wow.
10%.
On what time frame?
5 to 10 years.
5 to 10 years. Wait a minute. And then I kind of laughed at that because you never know with Elon. And the first number was not horrible.
Elon Musk just dropped a chilling prediction on Ted Cruz's podcast. He suggests that killer robots could be a reality within the next decade. As technology rapidly advances, we face a terrifying question. Are we empowering machines that could turn against us? The implications are massive, and the world is not ready for what's coming.
90% chance we live and they don't destroy us. But, if they do, what's happening within the next decade is alarming. But then there was this headline, it was in the Post, it was everywhere, New York Post, about a violent humanoid robot snapping. Look at this in China. This is at some factory in China where it freaked out. Look at it on its alleged controller. Look at this thing for the listening audience. This thing is hanging from like a mini crane. It looks like a robot with a head and arms and so on. It's an all black robot and it's waving its arms around maniacally, like picture an attack of killer bees. That's what it looks like is happening to this thing. And it's out of control. Go ahead.
This is an enormous risk. And I think Elon puts his finger on it precisely, which is there's a class of robot that we've used for decades, right? Like in factories, pick place machines that don't represent this risk. What is this risk? This is a humanoid robot that is completely, independent in its movements and has software that can fundamentally be altered and hacked. And there is no understanding of how to create a kill switch for these things. It's not universally accepted and it's not universally developed and understood how we could do that. So that is a tremendous risk that you could root these robots, right? You could have a foreign adversary figure out that there's an entire group of robots that are deployed in this country, hack them, root them, because they all have to be connected to the internet in some way, shape, or form, and then introduce some instruction set that causes them to be extremely violent. That is 100% likely. The question is, do they do it, or do we think about it in terms of the way we think about nuclear arms, where there's a mutually assured destruction? So
this is a wake-up call. The comparison to nuclear arms highlights a dangerous complacency in our tech development. Are we really prepared to gamble with AI and robots capable of mass destruction? This isn't just science fiction anymore. This is our reality.
Nobody does it. But I think Elon is right. The capability is at hand, and the more we see these humanoid robots manifest, that is probably the single biggest tail risk that it represents. It's very scary.
This is a red alert. The fear is palpable, yet the elite continue to push forward without proper regulations. They're playing with fire, and if we don't act now, we might just become the very targets of our own creations.
Yeah, it's super interesting.
Let me just say this, J. Cal.
Yeah.
It starts off, you don't hire the thing when it looks scary and it's hanging on a crane. You buy it because you see articles talking about how this is from a company called the robot's called Protoclone, created by Clone Robotics, because they tell you it's the world's first bipedal musculoskeletal android. This is a different company and a different robot, FYI. But it shows it twitching to life and kicking and moving its arms and elbows. And what they tell you is it's going to memorize the layout of your home and kitchen inventory. It's going to wash your dishes and clothes. It's going to make sandwiches. It's going to pour drinks. It's going to set the table. It's going to hold and retrieve items. It's going to vacuum, clean, shake hands, and even talk. So fun. It's like a pet that does all of your domestic chores. And all is well and good, J. Cal, until it freaks out like the Exhibit A.
Yeah, it's he's not being bombastic at all. Probably 15, 20, maybe 20 years ago now, I lived in Los Angeles and I had a friend, Sam Harris. We had the same book agent, and Sam Harris, I introduced him to Elon. The three of us used to go to dinner every other week or so at Papone's in Brentwood. We ate some chicken parm and we talk. And this was actually what Elon was talking about with Sam a lot. Now they're no longer friends, but they went through one evening. We were talking about all the possible ways AI could spiral out of control. Obviously, this is one of them, or something even simpler, which is you got a lot of terrorists out there. Terrorists typically are dumb. You very rarely have a sophisticated attack like 9/11. Thank God. But imagine terrorists or people with really bad intent having access to these computers and making their version of COVID, which apparently was made in a lab, according to the New York Times and the government and everybody, and Fauci covered it up. You know, it's conspiracy theories are becoming Nobel Peace Prizes, like, very quickly these days.
Record time.
It's unbelievable. The time between it being a conspiracy theory and somebody winning a Pulitzer is getting down to like 36 months now. It's weird. I guess journalists, right, Megan? It took like 40 years for the Catholic Church to actually admit that they were, doing horrible things. And for that to
and
get
even then, only sort of
admit it and then pay a bunch of settlements, right? 4 decades instead of 40 months. And imagine like some bad actors decide, let's see if we can put into the large language model, et cetera. How do we make a better COVID? Or what are great ideas? How do we build nuclear bombs? How do we do this stuff? We've been able to contain that information and then contain the techniques. These things are going to come up with really, really great ideas. And it used to be law enforcement would read thrillers and science fiction in order to figure out, and terrorists would do this as well, because the science fiction and the authors were really good at saying, hey, here's a crazy idea for a terrorist attack, because they're trying to get ratings or make a very compelling movie, et cetera. So there have been instances where, three-letter agencies went to specific science fiction and thriller authors to have them brainstorm the stuff. This is going to be brainstorming all kinds of bad ideas and putting it into people's heads, and we're going to have to figure it out. And Chamath's right. These robots could be rooted very easily. Self-driving cars as well. And it's exactly like the situation. These two stories parallel each other. The Facebook story of growth at all costs and don't worry about the outcome, because we're in competition with LinkedIn and we're in competition with Instagram and Twitter. When you get a bunch of rabid entrepreneurs globally, fighting it out, then what happens is they're like, you know what, we'll move fast and we'll break things. In this case, if you move fast and break things, we could have very bad consequences. The people who work at OpenAI joined that company. Elon funded it in order to make sure all of the code was open sourced and that they were thinking about safety and everybody got access to it, so there was parity in the world. Sam Altman, in a very selfish act, then flipped it to his own personal piggy bank where he would make unlimited amounts of capital from it, and made it closed AI. This technology needs to be monitored, and you're going to have companies, because they want growth, saying, you know what, we'll risk it. And that's where sensible legislation or sensible controls would make sense, at least thoughtfulness about it. And this is why David Sacks,
because
being the
right
czar
now,
of AI, is so great, because he is thinking about these issues.
But we don't even have, the thing that's disturbing with the robots is, among other things, there's no defense. A lot of us have guns, thanks to them being an advertiser on the show. I also have Byrna, which is non-lethal self-defense. It's basically like a little chemical weapon in a bullet. So you've got a bunch of different options available to you. None of that will work on the crazed robot or robots showing up at your door trying to, we have no defense at the moment to these things. And yet we're just proceeding, I don't know if it's fair to say blindly, Chamath, but we're proceeding rapidly down the lane of empowering them.
Yeah, the problem that we have is that whenever we think about slowing this stuff down, we're faced with the scepter of a much bigger risk, which is these are national level security issues. And so now we have to think about us as the United States and what do we do versus our frenemies abroad who have their own intentions with these technologies. So, us versus China is probably the best way to explain this. But in that video, your first video, Megan, that was a Chinese startup. We have our own versions of those Chinese startups. What are we to do? If they continue unabated, they look at that video and they say, it is what it is. We'll deal with the consequences of a few deaths here or there. We want this to happen. We want us to be the first country that has them. And then like Belt and Road, we will put our robots all over the world. Could you imagine if there's a class of these robots that can enable productivity and GDP growth? And instead of financing roads and waterways in Africa or in Asia, China just shows up with just boatloads and boatloads of these robots to do the work for folks and then just uplift entire societies. Imagine how much political and economic leverage they get. So when you paint it in that lens, you're in this very difficult situation, which is how do we slow people down here? And that's just a very hard thing to do. So I think that we have to find a way of going fast embracing a handful of companies who we know has leadership we can trust. But otherwise, if we slow down, we're going to lose a much bigger race, and I think that has much bigger consequences.
I wonder if it's like the Manhattan Project, Chamath, if we need to just put
it's like
every ounce of energy into winning this AI race for general, computer supremacy.
I really think it's like that, because I think if we lose the GDP war, we're going to lose all the wars.
This is the ultimate manipulation. Our leaders prioritize economic supremacy over ethical considerations. By racing to develop AI at any cost, they're setting us up for a catastrophic fallout that could threaten humanity itself.
Because if you don't have technical supremacy, we will lose military supremacy and we will lose economic supremacy. And then I don't know what America does if we're second in the pecking order on anything. That's not something we've had to deal with in the last 100 years.
It's time to wake up and question the motives behind our rapid technological advancement. Are we blindly following the elite's agenda? Let us know what you think in the comments. Are we doomed to be controlled by robots,